Should I be looking at you?
Yeah, it's like a conversation.
Yeah, I was like,
I mean, you can look at the camera.
I don't want to. I'd rather talk to
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Well, my name is Chudier Dang, and I'm from South Sudan. I'm an immigrant. I was born in Ethiopia during the immigration after the Civil War that killed my father. And so my mom and her family, this is actually a crazy story. So the Civil War happened. My father died somewhere in there. And then I was born somewhere in there also. And my mom and like a group of her homies from the village walked from their country to Ethiopia to the refugee camp. And then that's where I was born. On top of that, my mom was carrying my older sister while she was pregnant with me, and walked across a country, bro, by foot. And then I was born in the refugee camp. And then she came over to America in '95, and she was pregnant with my youngest sister. And we went to Tennessee, and my youngest sister was born in Tennessee. And then after that, we just hopped around the U.S., like my mom finding security, knowing people here and there, like word of mouth, this place got good jobs, good housing, come through. My mom's like that.
When you say word of mouth, like what does that network of people look like? Who is she talking to?
Well, like, so there's a specific amount of South Sudanese people in America. And naturally, we would all kind of go to the same places. And so she'd talk to them and they'd tell her, yeah, there's good stuff over here. And so she'd move us around. And she was just always working while we just stayed home, and my older sister watched us and stuff. So my mom was just a single mom, just working her ass off, providing for her kids, moving us from place to place for security. And like, I had this realization in my recovery, like she did all of this without a single GPS. There was no smartphone GPS. Like, she walked from her country to the refugee camp with her homies, no GPS, flew across the fucking pond, no GPS, then traveled the US, no GPS. Never, not once. Man. Like, we went from Tennessee to Iowa, Nebraska, then we found Mankato after Iowa, which was after Nebraska. And then we've been here for 20 years. But in there, we also left and went to Seattle. Also no GPS. She just drove out
just
there.
That necessity thing.
Bro,
you just do
necessity. She's a fucking survivor. Just like the most intuitive person I've ever met. That's like your environment like molds you into this fucking person.
That's really interesting. So it's really interesting. You had like an open floor. You could have introduced yourself in any way, and you chose to introduce your mother through that. I mean, that speaks for something. You know, what is that?
Well, she's the one, man. She's the one that gives me my heart and my mind. Like, my sisters, I don't know what happened. Like, they're just fuck ups. Like, my older sister just has babies, like Pez dispenser, you know. And I'm like, you have the example of this woman who has survived everything that the world has thrown at her with a smile on her face, and you still can't just choose to be better? Like, where's the disconnect in your mind? I don't understand.
So fast forward, just to contextualize, you know, why we're sitting here today. What happened to you that your friends knew, the episode, the event that happened to you that, you know, that your friends your friends' family know about you, you know, that big thing that happened. Tell me about that.
The one that we're here now for?
Yeah, and you know, and what the big life-changing event. Maybe.
Well, yeah. So back in mid-teens, 2000 teens, 2012 to 2019, ultimately, like, so I started dating this girl from my childhood, Haley Bristol, and she and I were Well, so I moved to Seattle from 7th grade to 10th grade, and I just fell in love with the place. So I've always wanted to go back there, but I've never been able to. And when we were together, I'd always tell her how much I love Seattle. And we lived with her friend Justine, who worked for Spirit Airlines. So she had like family tickets where you could like ride a standby or whatever. And she'd give me a certain amount, maybe 5 or something. And I would always go back and forth to Seattle. And then so Haley eventually was like, why do you love Seattle so much? And I was like, it's just the best place I've ever been. And I've lived in like 20 something states. Literally 20 something states. And so when I moved to the cities after I got my pipe insulating job, I got recruited by this place in St. Paul called St. Paul Park. It's a refinery. And I was there, 2018 to 19. And then on Haley's birthday, she decided she wanted to go to Seattle. But she was gonna go with a mutual friend of ours. And then that friend bailed on her at the last second. So we're texting and she tells me this. And I'm like, and I obviously still cared for her. So I'm like, well, I don't want you to go by yourself, A. And I love Seattle, B. So I'm gonna come with you. And that was that. And then so she came and met me and then we flew out to Seattle. And I was like, trying to convince her like, we should just move here, bro. This place is awesome. We got there on a Monday, which was the 5th. Her birthday is April 5th. And we were just there for a week, just having a great time. And then on Saturday, in the middle of the night, on the 9th, or Saturday, something like that, in the middle of the night, I had a brain aneurysm. And I before thought I had it in my sleep because I had never talked to her like straight up about it. But apparently like we were just hanging out and I guess during that day I had a headache, which I don't remember having a headache. So she thinks that I might have had the brain aneurysm earlier that day. But so sometime in the night we were just hanging out there and I started having a seizure. And so she called her aunt who was a nurse or something and she told her what was happening. And her aunt was like, call the police, call the ambulance right now. And so she called the ambulance and I went in or whatever, and I don't know if I immediately went into a coma, but I'm sure I did because I don't remember anything. And then in there, they found that I had a brain aneurysm right here, which caused a stroke. So a stroke by definition, if I'm not like butchering and mistaken, is like an interruption of blood flow in the brain, which was the brain aneurysm caused the interruption of blood flow, which caused the stroke. And yeah, that's how it happened. And then so I was in a coma for, I'm told it was 3.5 months. I obviously don't remember. But the way my mom talks to me about it, she says it was like maybe a month or 2 or something. And yeah, so one day I woke up, and it's funny, what's weird is like, I've had memories coming back, memories that I thought were lost forever to the ether, like never getting them back. And slowly but surely, little memories have been coming back. And a couple of months ago, I remembered the moment, the exact moment I woke up from my coma. It was crazy.
What about it?
Well, so I wake up, I can't move, I can't talk. I'm looking around, I see that I'm in a hospital bed, but I can't speak. So I'm like, I'm just yelling for help, And then the nurse comes in, she sees that I wake up, and then I pass back out while they're hooking me up to the machines and stuff. And yeah, that was my first memory.
What can you explain about the state of mind you're in? You're not being able to talk. What is the experience like? What is the What does it taste like? What does it
The
smell
state of
like?
mind
Yeah, what are you
after
really
the coma?
experiencing? Yeah, like in that moment where you really woke up. That
Oh well,
I remember like the smells.
I don't remember being in that moment.
Ah.
I just have the memory of it, and at that like snippets of it.
Okay.
And that was like, when I first came home, I was like, almost, in hindsight, relieved that I don't remember it, because to be sitting in that hospital day after day, like just nobody around me, would have been miserable, And so I was happy that I didn't remember that. But yeah, so I can't tell you what I felt like during it.
So you were an athlete. You had described yourself as this picture of good health before this aneurysm and stroke.
Oh yeah.
What was life like after that? What's the contrast? Maybe you can describe that.
It's like going from. So I had my stroke at 26, going on 27, and 27 is like the literal peak genetically of your life. It's when neurogenesis stops, which is the production of new neurons. So you're literally going downhill from there. And when I was there, I was prime. Like, I went for jogs for no reason. I could play basketball all day. Like, I rode my bike all over the cities for fun. Like, I was just healthy as shit, And then I come home and I go from prime of my life to like 98, Can't walk, can't talk, can't remember shit. Left side of my body doesn't move. And so it's like being in a prison or whatever. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
No, I can imagine it's for somebody who doesn't experience it. There's not a lot of language. Really
Exactly.
that
Like I
exists.
try to explain it to friends, and there's just so much you can explain
Yeah.
without giving the feeling to
Yeah.
someone.
But you had recently said that you have this really bright outlook in terms of your future. Why do you think you've been able to retain that when so many people who have had similar situations, they don't have that bright outlook that you have? I mean, what do you think is the difference between you and some people who might not have that?
Well, it's a mixture of it's a mixture of having my past, like immigrant family, single mother, just surviving and being happy. Like my mom went through everything she went through with a smile on her face, never like screamed out at God like, why? Is the word forsaken? Like, yeah. So, and I always saw that in her, so I became like a reflection of her. I always helped her with all of her problems. And also in my young years, I don't know if it's inherent or it's genetic, I just went on like a journey of self-discovery, a spiritual journey, if you would call it. Like when I was younger, I read books all the time, nonfiction, I started out by, like I was never a church guy, because when I go to church, I just hear people talking shit about the younger people, And like, yeah, like we were fucking having sex and smoking dope and drinking, but that's not bad, it's just what we do. And so I was like, well, I don't care about that. So I went on my own journey of self-discovery and like quest for God, so to speak. Reading books. Like the first book I read was the Bible, just to see what it was really about, not secondhand from pastors and people. And then after that, I went towards like Hinduism and the Quran and all these things. And as I was going towards that, I just found these other books, crazy books like, and that knowledge just gave me more and more and more like life energy, if you call it that.
Yeah, was there some message in that book, in those books, in the text, that was A, common amongst them all, and B, something that said to like keep going? Was there a message of like keep going, don't give up kind of element? And what did that look like when you're synthesizing all this information?
Well, the message that I got in the end that like let me, I guess, be resilient is like, so we're born on this planet and like it's on us to make what we make of our life. Like, you know, God isn't going to come down and save you. Like, God is for he's to get as many souls to the finish line as possible. But you, like, for lack of a better phrase, like, you're on your own, you know? You have all the tools to do it, and you have the power to create your reality, so just fucking do it. And don't be a victim. You have the strength, and you can always pull from the source. So that's what I did. I gained the knowledge, which gave me the heart and the power to be that resilient. And then I also had the example of my mother.
Do you find yourself like turning into your mom in a way?
Oh, 100%. Like, as I've been home, I can see through the way my mom is why I am the way I am. Like, she's hard-headed, I'm hard-headed. Like, when my mind is made up, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Like, when I was hanging out with my friends in my recovery, like, I'd want to drink scotch because, you know, I love scotch, and I was a bartender. And they'd be like, maybe you shouldn't drink because you're in recovery. And I'm like, I take my sip of scotch and I would say, I hear what you're saying and I respect your advice or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's my mom. Yeah. Like, so many people told her, like, don't go to Ethiopia because then you'll be alone, and what are you gonna do in America by yourself? And she's like, what do you mean? What are you guys doing?
Okay, cool, I'll walk.
Yeah, she's like, look at this place. There's nothing here for anybody. Of course I'm gonna go try my hand over there. And she was right, like, look at them. They're calling her every day. I mean, like, she gets 100 Facebook calls a day of people in South Sudan asking her for money.
Want help, yeah.
To where she had to change her Facebook. And then they found that somehow, and now she just ignores her phone completely. And like, if it was me, I'd be like, I told you, motherfuckers. What, look now, 30 years later, look at you. But yeah, she's got divine intuition. I don't know where she gets it from. Like, she can see clearly what is gonna happen and what she needs to do. Like, I can't tell you how many things in her life and her kids, our lives, especially my older sister, which she like called. She's like, this is gonna happen, and then you're gonna learn this lesson. Like, my sister just has a knack for having babies. And my mom's always warning her, don't do this, this is gonna happen. And she's like, nah, mom, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes and does it. And then everything my mom says happens. And then my sister comes back like, Mom, I should have listened to you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, you're 36 years old. You should have learned this when you were 12 years old. And like, even on top of that, like, I swear my mom's clairvoyant. Like, she called, like, the doctor was telling my mom, I'm never gonna wake up and she should just, you know, let me go and not.
That was a serious discussion.
That was a serious discussion. And she's like, fuck you, what do you mean? You're not God, you don't get to decide my son is gonna die. And she told him, like, I was told after in my recovery that, like, the conversations they were having, like, she's like telling this dude off, you don't get to decide if my son's gonna live or die. He's gonna wake up because you're not God, and then because you're killing these children, God's gonna take your power away. And then I wake up, and then this doctor gets fired.
Because of your situation?
Well, I think what happened, so like, when my mom like went off on him, the nurses came and talked to her and basically were like, yeah, like, this guy, he has the power to basically take away our jobs and our livelihoods. So that's why we don't speak up against him. And when she did that, my guess is that they spoke up.
They felt that
Yeah,
reverberation.
they got the power to speak up because she gave that to them. And then he got fired. That's what I think happened.
Yeah. Do you view then yourself in a more of like a mystic context of like your role in what your mom is kind of seeing for the future for you then?
What do you mean?
Like your mom had this idea of like, you know, my son's gonna pull through then, and then now do you feel like you have a sort of role to fulfill in terms of your mom's prediction for the future?
Yeah, I'd say it's twofold, because this stroke in general, I think is like the door to that future. Like, cause in my recovery, I've been just learning, you know, watching YouTube about gaining information. And on top of that, like YouTube is a great source of information. It's a place where normal people can have an idea and just go share it with the world. And so I've been learning, and I've come across certain information like, you know, in times of solitude, God is able to talk to you directly. And so my current situation is a situation to where like I'm stuck just talking to nobody else but God and myself, my internal. And so I've been like, I could literally feel my brain change, my agreements in my brain. And yeah, so it's preparing me for the man I'm supposed to be in the eyes of the universe. So then, you know, once I'm able to participate in reality, then opportunities will be given to me, and then I'll take them one by one, and then I'll just start molding what I'm aiming for and what I'm seeing. And you know, the more information comes at me, the more I'll decide what I'm gonna do directly, you know.
Yeah, so you've kind of had, I mean, I guess I'll call it an opportunity to really be reflective with your life in a way that people who are, you know, occupied with their jobs and just bullshit of day-to-day stuff that you don't have to deal with necessarily.
Oh, 100%. It's like that that story of like the monk going off into the woods and just meditating for
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've been stuck in my room meditating for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then now I'm becoming that monk.
Have you ever met anybody who's coming back from like a 3-year retreat before? There's we were in India and we had that situation happen. Two times I met two people who, one guy was gone for 4 years, just sitting in a cave or whatever, meditating, and there's just certain kind of, you just know that that's what they were doing for some reason. Why do you think that is? What do you think we're perceiving about these people who like yourself are doing these kind of arduous reflective tasks?
What do you think they're doing?
What do you think people recognize in these people? Like when I saw these people coming back from these meditation retreats, you could just tell, and everybody could tell. You know, it wasn't just me, it was just people just kind of went, whoa, who's that guy? You know, what do you think that is? What do you think we're perceiving about that?
I think one thing is you can see their sense of conviction, because they've had the time to just ruminate and think and just, you know, just replay this scenario in their head over and over again. And it's like a video game character, you know, you go through it, you die, and then you do it again, but you get to see the same like foes that you went through before, and now you know what they're gonna do and like how to go around them and all that stuff. And so you have the conviction to just go through what you need to do, and you also have the mental clarity of years of rumination of what you want to do. And you know, that's just visible. Like, you know, when a person talks with conviction, it's not hard to notice that, even in somebody who hasn't spent 3 years in a cave.
Like going back to the video game metaphor, you know, if you ever watch people who are really good at video games, or you know, speedrunners or whatever, they move with like this very efficient, very dialed in series of events that when you're watching it, like, oh wow, these people are just there's just something special about them. What you don't see is these thousands of repetitions where they're fucking up, or
they're like walking and they already know that guy's gonna come right there, so they're like, no, I'm just gonna move.
Not me this time,
bitch, miss me.
So I suppose those yogis and whomever, they kind of did just that. They ran through the repetitions in their mind, at any rate, through the conversations that they might have with people, through the issues that they might have, and we're able to recognize that for some reason. Maybe it's the way they move or something like that.
There's something in just thinking about something over and over and over again for an extended amount of time with no outward influences. Like, all you have is your internal, like, little voice to talk to. And like, that may as well be the voice of God, you know? Like, who are we to say it's not?
So like, how do you get better at interpreting that voice? Because sometimes the voice is really negative towards you, like, oh man, you suck at this. So like, how do you parse that out then?
Well, that shitty, what's the word? Like, bashing voice, that's not your internal voice for God. That's your monkey mind just talking shit.
That's the Buddhist term.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's not the real voice inside you. That's your brain's voice. And we're a trifold organism.
Yeah.
We're a mind, body, spirit complex.
So your brain physically, literally changed. I'm curious how your brain's voice changed then with your stroke.
I don't know if I can put a word on that. Like, I don't know. I mean, my brain is the same brain, but it has more clarity. And then it also has different agreements. Like, have you read the book, The 4 Agreements? Yeah, so I have different agreements with my reality. Like, I'm not as, I don't want to say giving, because I'm still myself. I'm still a kind, compassionate person. But I know that, like, when shit hits the fan, like, people ain't shit. Like, nobody is willing to go out of their way to help somebody else when it really comes down to it. Like, to go that extra mile is just not in the average person's capability. What was the question again?
How your brain's voice changed when you had your stroke, because you had said that's your brain's voice, so I'm curious what that really felt like for you.
It's changed in the way that, like, I know what I want to do, and I'm less inclined to listen to other people's inputs on it. Like, yeah, I'll take information, but I'm not gonna take conflicting information or conflict, or what's the word for it? Like, negativity, I guess.
Yeah. How much of that do you think is just getting older? Because it,
it might be just that too. It's like a trifold thing. Like, I'm older on one hand, and then also I went through a tragedy, which also put me in a state of just intense rumination. So then I have, like, intense clarity of vision for what I want to do, and also who I am. And yeah, I don't know. I guess, does that answer your question?
I think so. No, I think it does. So where do you kind of find yourself on that recovery process? In terms of where you were, where you are now, and where you think your body is going.
Well, right now I'm in a place of, like, so I have, you could say, I know what I want to do in a general sense, but I can't dial it in until I practice it in the world. Like, when I think about what I want to do, and then I get, like, the reflection of the world, and then I can decide, all right, then I'm gonna do this instead, or, oh, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, or this is exactly what I'm gonna do. Does that answer it?
I'm not sure. I'm not.
You asked the question.
Well,
again?
you know, like where do you find yourself in terms of your path, your recovery path? You know, your body's recovery.
Okay, so right now I find myself in a place of like, yes, I do know what I want to do, but I still physically can't go out and do it. So you could say I'm like I'm on like the, you know, when women talk about pregnancy, they talk about it in like trimesters and weeks or whatever. Like you could say I'm in the 3rd trimester, like I got 3 weeks until I'm born. And I'm just moving around in the womb like ready for birth. But I can't be due yet. That's where I find myself.
So you feel like there's something kind of imminent in your future that's...
Oh yeah, it's right on the other side. What I'm waiting for is to change my diet and then be physically free. And then once that happens, then it's balls to the wall. Then there's nothing's gonna stop me. Because I have the clarity and I have the strength to just go out and do it.
So what's next for you then?
Well, what's next in a general sense is I'm gonna get my pilot's license. That's like been my dream for my entire life. But before I didn't know how to do it, I thought maybe I'd go to school. And then I got in trouble in 2013, which ended up taking my student loans, and I spent 3.5 months in jail. Which is, how do I put it into words? I guess the word isn't ironic, but it's like, so when I spent those 3 months in jail, it was the same situation I'm in now. I was stuck alone in this place where all I could do was think about my past and my future and just run it in my mind over and over again and just wait until I was free to go do it. And so when I got out of jail, I just blasted off. Like I got a new job, which I was great at, and I just kept climbing the ladder. And then I got this upgrade to the cities. And like in my mind, I was rich, you know, like I was making probably 45 grand a year as a bachelor. And not to mention, I'm a refugee who's been poor my entire life. So that was a millionaire in my eyes. And then I was gonna buy my mom a house, and then I was gonna become a pilot. Like I had all the things I had thought about just ready to check off. And then I got hit with the stroke, bro. And then now I gotta go back on timeout. And I've been doing the same thing, just in jail, just thinking about my future, waiting to be released. And then once I'm released, it's gonna be the same thing. I'm just gonna blast off. And yeah, I'll go reach my dreams.